Welcome to Listen In, a podcast series designed to help parents and caregivers support their child's emotional well-being. Brought to you by the Ad Council's Sound It Out campaign with Pivotal. Let's dive in. Times have really changed. Parenting these days is not going to be the same as the type of parenting that we grew up witnessing. Our parents didn't have the language, especially the mental health language, to actually help us navigate our emotions. These days, children are actually expecting for parents to have mental health-based conversations with them because they're exposed to these conversations in other places with their peers, on social media, within actually even some of the shows that they watch. And so the expectation and maybe even the yearning is already there. And so it's going to be really important that we actually, parents need to pivot and have the conversations that may actually even feel a bit uncomfortable and unfamiliar because we never had a model for how to have these conversations growing up because even a generation removed, parents weren't having conversations that were centered around anxiety or depression or trauma or suicidality because that language was not very prominent. And so now that we have social media, now that we have a post-pandemic era where mental health conversations just started to flourish and blossom, which is a beautiful thing, now we have opportunity and we have an into these conversations with kids that are actually really suffering because they're experiencing a world that's moving very quickly. They're exposed to technology and conversations that they may not be fully prepared for, and they need the adults in their lives to be a sounding board, to be an area of support, and to be the loving people that they can actually go to have conversations that feel really difficult around mental health. I come from a Dominican household, a household that never really had any space to actually have conversations around mental health because culturally that just wasn't a thing. And that happens to be a lot of us. There's a lot of different cultures across the world that actually don't have that blueprint for how to have mental health-based conversations embedded in the home. And so I actually had to, in my time training as a psychologist, learn how to have those conversations with my parents, with my family members, and really coach the people in my life on how to embrace their emotions and embrace the ways in which we engage in conversations that may be difficult. And so for me, whenever I have these conversations with the people in my life, I can actually see how their shoulders drop, their jaws unclench. They feel like they can take a deeper breath. And that's so incredibly beautiful to see for me, for the people that I love, and especially for the kids that are in my life, all of the multitude of kids, friends and families, kids that I love and that I take care of. It's really healthy for them to actually have a person that is willing to have a conversation on mental health and not shy away from it. One of the most heartwarming shifts that I've seen in my profession lately has been around how parents are actually approaching the mental well-being of their children. Maybe like 5 years ago, what I tended to witness was a parent actually saying, hey, something's going on with my kid. Here, fix them. Now, the conversation is more centered around how can I be helpful? How can I learn whatever it is that's going on in my child's life and how it's impacting them emotionally so that I know how to navigate the conversation when I'm back home with them. And that's really pivotal and really important because as parents, you're going to have more time with your child than a person like myself. I may only have 45 minutes in a week to actually have a conversation that can expand upon a child's emotions. But you have them all the time when they're at home, during the weekends, when it's the summertime. And so you have more opportunity to actually have healthy conversations, which means that as a parent, it's going to be really essential that you are equipped and you feel like you have the tools and the support to actually have those conversations in a way that can drive connection with your child rather than disrupt it. As a parent, you're never going to really feel fully equipped to actually have the conversations Conversations are going to feel uncomfortable because mental health conversations can be. You're going to likely uncover some things that are happening in your child's life that you may not have been attuned to. But attunement in and of itself is actually going to be really critical in you having this conversation, which means that you're going to have to stay present, maybe put your phone down, really look into your child's eyes, notice the nonverbals, notice how they're fidgeting, or in moments when they may feel a lack of comfort or maybe some anxiety in actually saying something to you, and actually reflecting that back to them. I notice that you're feeling a bit anxious right now and telling me this. Those are going to be the critical moments when your child is going to feel like you're not only fully present, but actually really attuned to what's happening in their lives. And whenever that discomfort shows up for you, it's going to be really critical to take a few deep breaths and just let it ride and just allow your emotions to be there. Emotions are not something that we need to shy away from, but that we can just welcome in the conversation. And the lack of discomfort doesn't mean that you're messing up in the conversation. It means that you're so attuned and you're so aware of what's happening in this conversation that you're internalizing some of that emotion, and that's okay. The more important thing is that you stay present and that you stay connected to the child that's in front of you, because they're going to pick up on that, and that's going to actually add a lot of value to the conversation, and it's going to help them feel seen and validated. Many of us actually grew up in generations that utilize the because I said so method, meaning that we just had to do what our parents said. Although it may have been effective in some ways, it actually could have left us feeling sad or anxious. And if you think back to those times, think back to when you were a child, how did you feel? And do you actually want your child feeling the same way? If it's likely that you don't, then you'll have to try a different approach. Really, the because I said so method of parenting just strips a child of their agency, of their voice, and it doesn't allow them to actually explore possibilities. What you can do instead is offer disclosure, meaning that when you give any kind of feedback or any kind of direction to your child, you can let them know how you arrived at that thought, at that idea, or whenever you want them to do something, let them know why. Children want to know why. They want to learn the whys. And so it's an opportunity for them to learn your thinking and to learn the reasons why you're asking them to do something. It is also an opportunity for them to not feel like they're constricted in their choice. Vulnerability breeds trust. We know that whenever people share with each other, it actually helps them feel a deeper connection. And so one way in which you can actually figure out how to bring in vulnerability into your relationship with your children is by actually narrating the experiences that you have, even around the house. Let's say, for example, that you burn something on the stove. You may feel a sense of frustration. You may be acting out that frustration, but your child doesn't actually understand that you're frustrated. Instead of just letting the moment pass, you can actually say out loud, "Wow, I burned that and I really wanted to do that right. I feel very frustrated by it, but let me try that again." And that's an opportunity for them to actually learn what is happening inside of your mind and how you're actually establishing a process of repair, even in your own emotional cycle. Let's say that you went back to old patterns that feel familiar. And when you instructed your kid, you said, "Because I said so." It just came out. This is an opportunity for repair. It's an opportunity that you have not to actually parent in the ways that you were parented, where the "because I said so" was the only thing that was actually referenced. You can actually parent from the perspective of an apology and repair, which means that you can apologize to your children. It's something that can actually hold a lot of power and can help them to feel like you're human, like you're somebody that can actually make mistakes. You can model mistake making and a reparative process for them, and they can actually feel a lot lighter as a result. And think about this. Whenever we apologize to other people, you may not have noticed this in yourself, but it is truly what tends to happen psychologically. We actually feel lighter. We feel a lessened burden. And so that apology can not only impact your child positively, it can actually have a positive impact upon your emotional world as well. In a perfect world, we would have all grown up in an emotionally open home, including your kids. But let's be honest, it's not necessarily the case for probably many of us. And so what you can do now is actually create opportunities for emotions to seep into the conversations. One of the ways that I find can be very seamless and perhaps not as obvious is by actually saying something like, wow, that sounds like really sad. I would feel sad if something like that happened to me. If, for example, your child actually had one of their friends move far away and they're no longer in contact with them, this is an opportunity to really insert that emotion-based language that can not only help your child understand emotions in connection to their experiences, but can also help them to see the fact that you're willing to talk about those emotions. It's perfectly normal if your child actually doesn't want to talk to you about something that's happening right away. And if you really want to be of support to them, you can actually try the when you're ready method. And what I mean by that is that you can just propose that when they're ready, they can come to you and you'd be willing to listen and offer some support and maybe some guidance if they're willing to actually listen, that you're going to be there for them. And that's actually a beautiful opening that can leave them with the option to come to you and to have that conversation when they're ready. When it comes to raising a child, it's important to acknowledge that it really does take a village. So all of the people that are invested in your child's life will likely benefit from approaching your child in a similar way, right? Like actually talking about emotions or engaging in conversations about their day, even if they're neutral conversations that can eventually lead to emotion-based conversations. So if there's an aunt or a grandparent or anybody else that's a significant adult in that child's life, it might be really helpful to actually engage with them in conversations about how they can also support your child through the emotional woes and the emotional landscape of their lives. So having them actually prepare to have these conversations can actually be really, really helpful in your child's life because they will have 360 support. As a parent, it's probably going to be very critical for you to also acknowledge the fact that while you're parenting your child, you're also kind of reparenting yourself in many ways. You're learning the language of parenting alongside your child. And so it's going to be really essential for you to also take care of your own emotions, of your own anxieties, of your own sadness, the grief that may come with, life's challenges, and that you're able to also coach yourself through those moments. And if you don't have the tools, maybe actually going to someone for any kind of support or any kind of coaching or any kind of therapy may be a good idea in helping you to feel supported so that you can best support the child in your life. I'd like to leave you with a few thoughts to maybe mull over on your own time. The first of which is, consider when you're asking, how is my child doing? Also asking the question, how am I doing? The second is to actually lean in the direction of aiming to achieve progress over perfection. There's no perfect way of parenting, and you're likely going to get it wrong a lot. So just give yourself grace and allow yourself to fall and actually engage in the process of repair that we mentioned. And the third thing is asking yourself, how is it that I would like to parent differently so that my child can feel seen, validated, and connected to me as their parent? If you're here, it's because you care. And that alone is actually going to be motivation for you to do better by your child, which they're going to feel time and again. This was Listen In. Thanks for joining us. Sound It Out is a national campaign from the Ad Council with Pivotal. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend or a loved one. For more tools and support, visit sounditouttogether.org.